Hi, my name is Adrienne Simeone with the Mama Bear Effect. This is day 2 of Child Abuse Prevention Month, and I want to spend some time to talk to you about talking about child sexual abuse. I know a lot of times people ask us, how do I talk to my kids about sexual abuse, or when's a good age to talk about sexual abuse with my kids? And there are a lot of articles about there, and the specific focus is talking to your kids about sexual abuse. And I think for a long time, that has been the main focus in regards to prevention, is that if we talk to our kids about sexual abuse, we will empower them to protect themselves, and they will somehow have the ability to say no or to escape a situation, or at the very least they will identify a situation that is abusive and they will know to tell us, which is obviously a very important thing. But I think we're missing a really key point here, and something that people don't ask us about, and I would like to hear more people want to talk about this, which is, how do we talk to other people about sexual abuse? Now you might be thinking, well, why do I need to talk about other people about sexual abuse? I want to protect my children. And that's how I've been told is the best way to protect my kids from sexual abuse, is to teach them about it. Well, I'm going to challenge that concept and say, well, what if there is another way, and perhaps even a better way, to protect our children from sexual abuse, from preventing it from happening in the first place? Now, statistically, we know that the vast majority of sexual abuse of children is perpetrated by people that are known to the child, trusted by the child, and someone that the child often loves and is related to. So in a lot of cases, it's someone within their family, and a lot of times that might be a sibling, or it's someone that's in a position of trust, whether it's a teacher, a babysitter, a coach, a daycare worker, a pediatrician. We have seen the whole gamut of people who have committed sexual abuse against children, and they have pretty much always been in a position of authority, or they have a relationship with that child which they manipulate for their own sexual purposes. So when we're thinking about what's the right age to talk to kids about their bodies and talk to them about sexual abuse, I want to pose this concept to you, that we need to talk about it before our kids are even capable of understanding what their private parts are. And those people we need to talk about are the people that we know, we trust, we have in our circle of people that we know and trust. So we're talking about your spouse, your partner. We're talking about your own parents, your cousins, your aunts and uncles, your siblings, the people within your own family unit, whoever's coming over to your house for a Christmas gathering or Thanksgiving or whatever it might be. Those are the people who should first and foremost be educated in body safety and understand that you value body safety for children, and that you are aware that sexual abuse is something that happens to children. And you might think, well, Adrienne, how are we going to talk about that? That's really awkward. I'm going to give you some suggestions. First of all, on our Facebook page, we share a lot of stories of situations where children have been sexually abused. And a lot of times as I'm reading these stories, because I receive a Google News update on a daily basis of the top stories across the nation related to child sexual abuse. So a lot of times I will share those stories with people that I know. A lot of times my husband or my friends, and I'll be like, you're not going to believe this story that I heard, and this is the situation, and this is how the person perpetrated abuse. A lot of times the story might not necessarily give us the details, but when the stories do give us those details, I think we need to, learn from that and say, okay, this is how that person gained trust, or this is how that person gained access to the child. And a lot of times, if they're not telling you the relationship to the child, it's because they want to protect the privacy of that child. So we can take that as an assumption that the person was within their family or was in a romantic relationship with the parent of that child or someone that child knew. So when we're talking about body safety, we need to talk about it with the people that we trust with our children. So our spouse, our romantic partner, they need to be on the same page about body safety with our kids. The child's grandparents, they need to be on that education level that we're at. Not just because we want to potentially deter someone from sexually abusing our child, but also because we want those people to help us empower our child, because we can't do it alone. We cannot protect our children from every potential situation. where they might be at risk. Sometimes kids might spend alone time with their grandparents, which is a great thing. All kids should have other extended family members that they get to spend time with. But I also know in situations one grandparent was abusing the children and the other grandparent either didn't know or knew and didn't say anything about it. Now, a lot of times what happens is when a family comes to us and says, I taught my child body safety and they were sexually abused anyway. And the question I often ask them is, because it's always someone that they trusted, it's someone that they knew, was that person aware that you taught your child body safety? And in all but one case, the answer was no, that they never talked about sexual abuse with that person. And that person was most likely not aware that they were teaching their kids body safety. So even though this is not 100% guaranteed that we can protect children in every situation, let's put this into perspective, okay? We want to protect our home from people who might break in and try to rob us. So what do? We put locks on our doors, we get home security systems, and a lot of times when you get that home security system, you get that little yard sign that says this home is protected by this security company. Now, why do we do that? Why is that a good deterrent for someone who's going to break into your house? And really the reason is because if someone's potentially considering breaking into your house and they see that sign, they're going to maybe think twice about doing that. And so that's kind of that same mentality with talking about sexual abuse with other adults, is that we're putting up that sign that says, hey, we are vigilant about what this situation is when it comes to sexual abuse in children, and we protect our children from sexual abuse. Because a lot of predators will look for easy targets. If we're going to be realistic, a lot of sexual abusers of children are weak. They prey upon children because it's an easy target. It's not necessarily because they're all pedophiles and there is a specific sexual attraction to children, but children are an easy target. They have access to children, and they're using sexual abuse as a way to cope with something else that's going on in their life. We talk about that on our website. You can kind of go on there and learn more about the mentality of sexual abusers. But a lot of them, and especially convicted sexual abusers who have been interviewed, will share that they specifically target the child who seems like they're looking for a friendship or a relationship, that maybe they don't have a father figure at home and that person wants to come off as a father figure to that child. Or it just seems like the family is a very trusting family. They feel like they're good people, which is why sexual abuse is not something that just happens to children who are neglected or abused, or in situations where the parents are not paying attention to them. It can happen in the most loving of homes and with the most protective parents, because they are often feel shielded from that kind of information. They feel like if you live in a safe community, that those kinds of people don't live in that kind of community. Well, we know that's not true. We know that in actually the most safest communities when it comes to crime, that sexual abusers can be the most prolific, because there is a sense of protection about their behavior, because people are not even thinking that it could happen to them. So teaching kids body safety education is important. We want you to do it. It will help them identify situations that may put them at risk, but that is not necessarily the best way to protect them from a situation where they might be confronted with something like that. Just like thinking about a child riding in a car seat in a car. Now we're going to buckle them in because we want to keep them safe in case of an accident. But there are things that we're going to do before that so that we don't have that accident. We're going to pay attention when we're driving. We're going to be a defensive driver. And if there are other people who are driving recklessly, we're going to try to avoid those people because we have precious cargo. We want to protect our children. So we're not relying on that safety belt to keep our kids safe. We're going to do what we need to do to keep them safe in the first place. So that's the same thing with sexual abuse. We teach our kids body safety, but do we really want to put that body safety lesson to the test? I don't. I don't want my children to be the only thing between them and a potential predator. I want to be the first one. I want to be the one that a predator might approach me and say, you know what, this is not a good family for me. This is not a good situation for me. And maybe it's a family member. Maybe it's a family member and they see that we have our body safety rules magnet on the fridge. And, I am lucky because I can say I'm an advocate for child sexual abuse prevention. And guess what? You can say that too. You don't have to run an organization or, invest a bunch of money to create some kind of program to say that you're an advocate. You can be an advocate by speaking out against child sexual abuse. You can work to educate people within your community, within your family, to understand the risks. You don't have to have this official title to say that you're an advocate. So that's a great way for you to have an excuse to educate other people. And maybe it's not family members. Maybe it's a play date. Maybe your kids go to school and they meet someone new and they want to play over their house. And so the first time you meet that parent, you might say, hey, it's really nice to meet you, and I just want to share this information with you because as parents, I think it's important for us to be educated. And in our house, we have certain body safety rules, whether it's we don't let kids play behind doors, we don't let them play, I'm very focused on making sure they understand that we don't play games about touching each other's private parts, or that if someone says no about how they're being touched, that I'm going to step in and say, hey, we respect the word no in this house. And if someone doesn't like the way they're being treated or touched, that I am a voice for that, and I'm going to step up and make sure that that child's personal boundaries are being respected. So it's just something to think about. I know it might be uncomfortable, it might be challenging, but I can promise you that the more you do it, the more natural it feels, and then you kind of wonder why other people aren't doing it. That, we're the grown-ups, we're the ones that are protecting kids from sexual abuse. It's not just on them to have the ability to say no. And I know a long time ago, that was really the lesson that was being put out there, is that if we teach kids to say no, they put their hand out like this, no, and then they run and go tell someone right away that's going to help keep kids safe. Well, that's not really realistic. That is a lot of responsibility and pressure to put on kids. And if we look at sexual assault survivors who are adults being perpetrated by other adults, very few cases were they able to say no. They have that freeze or flight response. And a lot of times, the human brain is going to think, what is the safest thing for me to do? If I say no to this and I try to fight this, I could get physically hurt. But if I say nothing and I just play dead or go along with it, I have a better chance of surviving this. So I don't like the idea of teaching kids that it's their job to say no. It's not their job to say no. It is not their job to protect themselves from people who might hurt them. That's the job of adults. What their job is to tell us what something happened, and to tell us as soon as they can. But even if they can't tell us right away, as soon as they can tell us, we will be proud of them. It's never too late to tell. We will always be there to believe them. Whether it happened one time or it happened 100 times, it's still not their fault. So we want to make sure that kids understand that it's our responsibility to protect them, and we want to encourage other adults to also get on that team. We call that a body safety circle, where we surround children with people who are educated and support body safety. So if you look at your family, look at the children that you're looking to protect, work your way in and out. Who are the people that are most around your children? Who lives in your home? Who are the people that spend the most time with your children? And make sure that everyone that's involved in your child's life understands that you are a body safety family. And I think that is something that we can easily do. It doesn't take an investment of money. It doesn't take a lot of effort, but simply raising awareness with other people, I think, is a great way to help protect kids from sexual abuse. So I want to thank you so much. I hope you appreciated that information, and we'll see you tomorrow.